Hey book girlies, I'm Sarah.
Hey gamer boys.
Gamer guys! It's gamer guys.
It's your boy, Ian here, coming at you again with another Call of Duty commentary.
You know this is the first episode, right?
Alright, we can try again.
Hey book girlies, I'm Sarah.
Hey gamer guys, I'm Ian.
And you're listening to a pod of sass and sarcasm.
Yay.
Intro music, which we have now. Alright, so are we actually talking about Call of Duty today, or what are we talking about?
Oh, no, I've not played Call of Duty in a long time.
You're just being a silly goose there?
Yeah.
What have you played recently?
Played more Warframe recently. I was able to get a new weapon built, so I've been playing around with that.
What kind of weapon?
It's a pretty weird weapon. It's the Torrid Incarnate.
Do you want to explain what the fuck that means?
Not too terribly much, but it's like a...
I don't really want to explain what that means.
I don't really want to explain what that means, but it's like an end game weapon.
Do I want to know what that means?
What's
What's an endgame weapon?
It means it's a weapon you can use at the more difficult content. That's considered end game.
And that's not where you're at right now?
It's pretty much where I'm at.
Oh, that's lame that you get the endgame weapon now instead of later, or earlier.
I've played a lot of this game. So it's the Incarnate weapon is just like a weapon you can add something onto, so it has like a second mode.
Is this the game that you don't like?
It's the game that I really don't like the quests for.
Oh yeah, but like the boys are asking you to play.
Yeah, I got them to. There was one guy who was always playing, but I got some of our friends to play again.
You got some of the friends to play even though you don't like playing it?
I don't like playing the quests.
What else is there?
Just normal game modes, I guess.
What does that mean?
I like grinding to get new weapons and new characters.
Oh my god. That's really weird and really lame. And I hope you're happy with it. And your new weapon that you don't want to talk about.
Well, it's hard to talk about. Well, I also built a new Warframe. There you go. Or a new character.
I was going to say, what the hell's a Warframe? Isn't that what the game is called?
That's what the game is called.
And they just call characters Warframe, so the game is basically character?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's really dumb. I'm really sorry.
I mean, I can talk about the bullshit lore they got going on, but it doesn't make any sense.
Cool. Love this. Great chat.
I was just trying to, convey as much to you as I could. That kind of made a little bit of sense.
Yeah. You play the weirdest shit. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah, I know.
Well, can I tell you about my book?
Is this your new book?
This is my new book.
Excellent. Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, so we are reading, and by we, I mean, obviously I'm the one that's using my eyeballs to scan the pages and stuff like that, but you are also part of this we, because you get to hear about it. So we, you and me, are reading Here There Are Monsters by Amelinda Berube? I don't know how to say her last name, but for those of you who don't know, I was in the middle of a book series that I don't like, and I don't know if I want to finish it. And so it was really hard to decide to start this podcast, because part of the reason for wanting to start this podcast was because of that book series, because our commentary on that was quite hilarious. But, yeah, so I wanted to start this podcast on a fresh note, on a new note. And I remember when I was finishing the second book, I was like, I want something light and fluffy and that I don't have to think too hard about, that I don't have to get mad at. And I really, really missed the mark. This is not light. There is no fluff. It is really, really dark and heavy and sad. And I'm only on chapter 3. So
Oh, wow.
I missed it Big time! Which, I mean, like, I should have known by the title. Here There Are Monsters does not sound super light and fluffy. Unless we're talking about, like, cute bedtime story monsters, I suppose. Are you alright?
I'm just trying to yawn without making a face.
You were failing miserably at that. Holy shit. So yeah, this is gonna be a great time of super light and fluffy, whatever.
Oh, good.
So I heard about this book because I'm on all the social media pages that are about like book recommendations or whatever, and there was this one person who posted and was asking about this book that they read when they were younger, which is super vague. I don't know what that means about like how many years ago this was or whatever, but this sounds like it's an older book. And they're like, I don't really remember much of the plot. I remember there's like two sisters and stuff like that. And the book cover has this girl holding an animal skull. It looks like a deer skull or something in front of her face. And that was like all they remembered. And then somebody in the comments obviously found the book and they were like, it's this one. And they were like, yep, that's it. That's awesome. Thank you. I want to go read that now. And I'm like, well, I got to read that now. So immediately the book draws you in. The first line is so chilling. So I have to read it to you. The first line is, the night my sister disappears is wild. With a... Oh, shit. I can't read my own handwriting. Hold on. The night my sister disappears is wild, with a waxing moon sinking dull and red into the leafless claws of the trees. Chilling. I'm intrigued by the present tense. I don't read a lot of books that are in present tense using like things like is and like things are currently happening. Like every sentence is like current kind of thing. It's not like saying like, oh, this happened. It's happening, which is very interesting. You don't read a lot of books like that. I don't anyways.
Oh, a lot of what I read is in that text.
Interesting. I don't read a lot of books in present tense, partly because I'm very aware of the tense that it's in, and it sometimes is very jarring, and some authors do a very bad job of it because they, like, when they then start talking about, like, a memory or a flashback or anything like that, they don't know what tense to use, and then it gets really awkward and weird. This author so far seems to have a very good control over what tense is being used, which I really like. Yeah. So, the story starts with Skye, who is our narrator, and she's woken up from, like, a pretty deep sleep, it seems like, by her mom asking if she's seen her sister Deidre, which, first of all, I'm just noticing this now. I wrote Deidre's name incorrectly. I wrote it Deidre.
Deidre.
D-I-E-D-R-E. That's not how you spell it.
Skye and Deidre.
It's not Deidre. It's Deidre, but I spelled it wrong every single time.
Do we know the characters' last names?
No, not yet. So her mom's like, have you seen Deidre? And Skye's like, no, I haven't seen her. And her mom doesn't explain it, just fucking leaves the room, which I'm like, wow, okay. The fuck? And Skye at first thinks that her parents are probably, like, overreacting, because then she, like, sees her dad go out and, like, is, like, shrugging on a jacket while he's going out into, like, the woods near their house. But then she checks the time and sees that it's really late at night. It's, like, almost midnight kind of thing. And she's like, what the fuck? Was I asleep this whole time? And so she doesn't explain a lot. It is kind of very frustrating seeing the story through her eyes because she seems very concerned about holding on to her secrets and, like, does not explain anything. So, like, we are probably more confused than she is at this point in the book. So I'm like, whatever. You get the impression that she went down for a, like, afternoon nap kind of thing and was not expecting to be asleep till midnight, which also leads me to believe that maybe she was drugged in some way.
Wow. I don't know much about the context of the whole world yet, so I'll reserve judgment. Sure.
So we learned that Skye is the older sibling, and Deidre is about 13, which puts Skye at, like, 16, 17, I want to say.
Yeah, when you first started in my head, I thought Skye was, like, 7.
Oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Much older. Skye is, like, 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. And Deidre's 13.
Okay.
And Sky's the older sibling. She does eventually offer to help her parents look for Deidre, but her mom becomes very accusatory. She was like, was she here when you got home? I thought so, I stammer. I mean, I thought she was outside. Her boots were gone. And you didn't go looking for her? After hours? We went out for one evening, Sky. We left you in charge. And I'm like, damn, okay, like, this girl is just waking up. You can calm the I mean, like, here's the thing. I don't have children, so I don't know what it's like to, like, come home and not see one of your children where they're supposed to be. But also, like, your one child who is here right now, like, is also probably very concerned and scared and, like, is offering to help, and you don't need to be, like, jumping down her throat either. I don't know. It's a very tense relationship already that I'm sensing between Sky and her mom.
And it's also, like, we don't know how much time has passed. Like, how long have the parents been looking?
That's true, too. I mean, like, we do find out that it's almost midnight.
Yeah.
And it's, this is in October. It's October 30th because there was, like, a comment about how it's, like, the night before Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And 13 is young to be out at, like, midnight, you know? So it's, like...
It doesn't sound like they expected the kid to be out at all. They expected the kid to be at home.
Right. That's true. The family dynamics in the story are going to be really interesting, I feel like. I'm not sure what kind of story this is, whether it's a fantasy story and there's like some magical intervention that's happening here, whether it's a story about a runaway, or if it's a story about a kidnapping or some kind of crime. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
No matter what, it all sounds very dark. But it does sound like it's going to be a story about like people holding on to secrets and like family secrets versus personal secrets, that kind of thing. So I'm very interested in the dynamics that are kind of coming out here, which is awesome. Then Sky has kind of an interesting like inner monologue thing that she talks about. She says there's many ways to run away from here. And I'm like, where's here? We don't really know yet.
Yeah, where's here? Why are you running away?
Well, and that's the thing. I'm like, why are you running away, Sky? Like... have you tried to run away in the past? Has Deidre tried to run away in the past? Like, what? It's so interesting that she's like, there's many ways to run away from here. And then she starts beating herself up just like her mom was, where she's like, how could I have just fallen asleep? The afternoon was perfectly normal. Deidre's always outside when I get home. If I'd been awake at least, I would have noticed that she didn't come back. Surely, even if it's been hours, she can't have gone that far. It's cold out. All of our coats are hanging in the closet, which is also like, oh no, that's really scary. Like, if it's just her boots that are missing with her, like, that's creepy. And then she continues, unless a car pulled over, unless the passing headlights caught her pale hair in the dark. If she was cold enough, maybe she'd get in. Maybe she told them home was somewhere far from here. Maybe anywhere else would do as long as it was far, far away from us. Away from me. And I'm like, like that's like spooky and ugh. If that's what happened, she'd disappear as surely as she'd stepped into the river, swallowed up. But every time I come to the end of those thin speculations, I find them skittering over the one I can't let go. That she slipped into the forest, a shadow among shadows, to wade through the stagnant pools between the tree roots. I, first of all, love the like poetic elements to this author's writing.
Yeah, the poetic imagery.
Yeah, it's just very poetic. It's kind of like sing-song. You know what it reminds me of is like those like spooky nursery rhymes that are always like...
Yeah, like fairy tale rhymes.
Yeah, like just the weird things that like are in horror movies that are always said by a little child that are really like profound yet spooky. I just, you know, I'm getting that vibe out of this whole thing so far. I'm like, I just really like her writing style. I think Amelinda Berube, quality writer. Love it so far. So then, eventually, Sky's mom calls the police and then grabs her laptop to send messages to family, friends, maybe even Deidre herself to be like, hey, where the hell are you? And then for a split second, Sky thought that she might sit down to do work-related tasks, which is very telling that Sky believes that her mom thinks that work is more important than a lot of things. Like, that she was like, it was for a split second, but I thought she was gonna just sit down and do work. And I'm like, that's really weird that you would think that about your mom, but okay. So one weird thing is that Deidre's bed has a pile of leaves, twigs, and pine cones in it. Like, you know how, like, when there's all those stories about kids sneaking out and they, like, stuff pillows?
Like stuff their pillows and stuff.
It sounds like it's that, but it's with, like, leaves that she did that. And so that's where I'm like, is this a kidnapping? And, like, the kidnapper did that?
Or is she sneaking out? Or is this magic type deal?
Right, yeah. So that's where I'm like, well, especially because, like, there's all this talk of monsters already, and, like, shadows among shadows and all that. And I'm like, what is this? Like, is this a spooky tale? Is this about, like, some creepy forest cryptid that stole her away into the night? Or is this a creepy person stole her away? Or did she choose to run away and chose to leave the most bizarre shit in her wake? It's so hard to tell. And I don't know for sure if that's how she found it, because, like, they didn't describe the pile very well. They were just like, there's a pile of leaves and twigs and pine cones. And they said it was in her bed, but I'm like, is it, like, shaped like a person? Was it under the covers? Is it on top of the covers?
Is this slightly unusual? Is this an outside kid? Like, is this...
Well, and we do find out that Deidre is an outside kid, but it's
I was assuming so. I was like, is it out of the ordinary they're playing with twigs and pine cones in
Is
their
it
room?
out of the ordinary? Yeah, that, like, it's inside the...
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to find out. Her mom asks the officer if it's possible that someone else could have put that pile there, so that makes me that leads me to believe that there's, like, a kidnapping or something. And the officer says that they'll look into every possibility, and then turns his attention to Skye. He asks if she might know where Deidre is, like a typical hangout spot or a friend's house. Deidre doesn't have friends, I reply dully. And I'm like, whoa, that, like, I don't know, it just seems very cold for a sister to be like, you know, like, she doesn't fucking have friends. Like, okay, weird, but okay. Deidre doesn't have friends, I reply dully. She has make-believe worlds instead. Stick monsters and animal bones. So the part about, like, how she just has make-believe worlds and all that, that part she just keeps in her head. She doesn't say that out loud.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's a little unclear with the audio side of it. She's having some trouble adjusting, Mom adds, her voice high. We've only been here a few months, since July, and she's never had a great social skills. She's just having trouble. Okay, so she's 13. You guys have been here since July, which is not that long if this is an October thing. Like, so, like, 2 months in school and then a few months over the summer being here. And so also that's really interesting that Skye already knows that there's a lot of ways to run away from this place. Because I'm like, this place is new to you guys. So that's really interesting to me. But anyways, so several times when the officer, I think his name is Officer Leduc. We'll call him Leduc.
Officer Duke.
Sure. Okay. Asks Skye a question and the mom answers for her. And that happens like several times where like people will direct a question at Skye. And Skye sometimes just like stares at them in response, which I'm like, you are really not a personable person and it's really annoying. But also then
typical like teenager getting asked a question at the doctor's office.
Yeah. And then like
they just look at the mom like
you say it. You tell them that my stomach hurts.
You tell them.
But like it doesn't always seem like sometimes it seems like her mom is not giving her the option to speak. It's not like she's like looking to her mom. It's that she's like she'll just stare at him and then her mom will like respond for her and I'm like
weird.
Everything about this so far I'm like this is weird. This is like a very odd family dynamic and I'm very curious to know what it is that Deidre's running from if she is running away. Eventually the door opens, admitting men's low voices, and Mom almost knocks her chair over as she hurries to meet them. Officer Leduc follows her. I stay put by the window, waiting. But Mom's sobs start low and echo up to me, and some police officer is saying something grim and professional when I shuffle to the top of the stairs and look down at them. She's cradled against Dad's chest, and he's buried his face in her hair. It's not Deidre they've brought back. It's her boots.
Oh. I got a little chill there, actually.
I like almost cried. Like it's so spooky. Like, well, because like that to me also like I'm like, did she fucking die? Is she murdered? Or is she like really running? But like, where is she going without a coat or boots? You know, unless she has some secret stash of like other clothes.
Yeah.
But that's really spooky. That's really scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all just in the prologue, by the way.
Oh, we haven't even hit chapter 1.
We haven't even hit chapter 1 yet. So that like sets up the whole story, which is really, really great, I think, personally. Chapter 1 is a jump back in time.
Oh, okay.
So it's back to like when they just move in, so it's back to July, so like only a few months. And so it's around the time that the family moved, and Deidre apparently is very troubled, which is the reason for the move. Like, there was talk about, like, there's counselors, there's, like, police officers that they've had to be involved with before, there's social workers, there's psychiatrists, there's a lot of... So it sounds like Deidre is a very troubled kid, but we don't... Like, that's still... Like, it sounds like we're being specific, but it's really not that specific at all. Like, what does that mean that she's troubled?
Just interacting with the system, in quote, the system.
Right. And, like... who's asking for her to be helped too? Like, is it her parents? Is it the school that's asking her? Is it like other people being like, she like hit my kid or something? Like, we don't know what trouble means for Deidre. But apparently they did move because of her. Mostly it's been a relief, though I never let it show. I'm afraid for her. If I wanted to cross to the other side of the street and pretend that we weren't related, it's not like it would have been hard. On good days, it's a family joke how opposite we are, and we laugh together at the teachers who claim to see a sisterly resemblance. Our names are about the only thing tying us together. My parents' attempt at instilling some sense of family heritage. So their name's Deidre. Deidre means like storm clouds or something like that, and sky, obviously, the sky.
Interesting.
So like that's the only thing that's like together, and so this whole chapter is really about like Sky's analysis of Deidre and how and of like who they are as people and how like they're polar opposites, how like they kind of live up to their names in really weird ways. So one of the things that she talks about in this chapter is that Deidre was prone to fantasy, or at least it seems that way. And Sky is always the person to protect her, and it seems like she takes on that role reluctantly because nobody else will, which is really sad.
It is sad.
So from an early age, Sky's job was to rescue Deidre from trouble. In the kingdoms Deidre invented, I was the Queen of Swords. All the kingdoms were ruled by queens. That is hard to say, but maybe it's just because I have a weird like lisp.
All the kingdoms were ruled by queens.
It's the word ruled. I can't say my fucking R's, man.
Just have to roll them.
All the kingdoms were ruled by queens.
Yeah.
All right. In the kingdoms Deidre invented, I was the Queen of Swords. All the kingdoms were ruled by queens. We're going to try that one more time. Oh my gosh. I will cut out some of these, but I'm also imagining leaving some in and then like having the listeners be like, wow, this bitch cannot read.
Can't read her own handwriting.
I was also like patting myself on the back because I thought that my handwriting looked really good when I wrote this, and now I'm like, I can't read.
Now you're like, I can't read this shit.
Give me that. I can't read.
I can't fucking read.
In the kingdoms Deidre invented, I was the Queen of Swords. All the kingdoms were ruled by queens. She preferred to make the denizens of the kingdoms herself. Clay, popsicle sticks, feathers, felt, whatever. Construction paper silhouettes would do in a pinch, adorned with crowns of tinfoil or pipe cleaner. If the results were misshapen, so much the better. Monsters were way more interesting to Deidre than animals, even talking ones.
Oh.
So again, we're talking about like monsters again, and so I'm like...
And talking animals, like they're normal-ish?
Well, at least normal to Deidre, because again, it feels like Deidre's really prone to fantasy and like living in this world of like where like she's like, I was the Queen of Swords, and like there were all these kingdoms that we made up and stuff like that. So I don't know if she means like talking animals in Deidre's made up world, or is it talking animals in their daily lives that nobody else knows about? Because like I don't know, it's really weird. Sometimes she'd accept my contributions, take an idea and run with it, unwinding all the consequences. But the kingdoms were hers, unquestionably, and forever. I liked being the Queen of Swords, towering, fierce, unconquerable, but I was always traveling in Deidre's country. She was all the queens and none of them. She belonged there. And where I belonged, that was more complicated. Oh,
Ooh.
I'm getting I love the way that this author writes. I love it. It is, first of all, very refreshing after the last thing even though this isn't light and fluffy, it's very dark and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's so refreshing to like have that poetry there and to have to sit with stuff for a little bit and try to like ponder what it means. It's so good, but it's also, it's kind of scary. And it, like, especially the fact that she's like, I liked being the Queen of Swords. I liked being this fierce, unconquerable thing, especially the word unconquerable. I was like, what happened to you? Like, something happened. I feel like there has to be something that happened to Sky. We'll find out, but I don't know. So, when they first moved in, Deidre and Sky had to share a room while their dad finished the basement for Sky. And on one of the first nights that they were there, the two of them stay up late, unable to sleep, mostly from like a nervous type of excitement of being in a new place. They listen to the crickets or the frogs, they can't tell, watch the fireflies glow in spurts, and witness the stars of the Milky Way crawl across the night sky. Wow, I'm trying too hard.
You're feeling it.
I was feeling it, Mr. Krabs. But at one point when they were watching the fireflies, Deidre calls the fireflies fairies.
Oh.
And she starts making up stories about their kingdom and like trying to work the fairies / fireflies into it. And that really like weirded me out because again, like she's 13 in this. Like this is only a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do 13-year-olds still believe in fairies and shit?
I don't know. There's horse girls until like 30.
I feel like those are different things though.
Are they?
I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's like she seems to be, like I said earlier, prone to fantasy and just very like caught up in her fantasy world and like not wanting to grow up kind of thing.
What age are you when you enter high school?
14.
So 14, 15 is usually when those things are dropped, I think.
So
fully,
but she's
like for people that hang on to them a little bit longer, it's like when they're getting into high school.
Right, but like if you're hanging on to it, that's one thing. But the fact that she's still like literally, it was like the fireflies just started, you know, whatever, and she looked out the window and she goes, fairies, and I'm like, that's a really young response to this. It's really weird. To me, I think it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I should ask my students because my students are about this age, and so I should be like, hey, do you guys still believe in fairies?
I wonder if they're angling towards a developmental, and it depends on what time period this is in.
I think it's supposed to be modern day.
Okay, because like a lot of the times the police don't know how to handle people with behavior disorders.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's something that I guess will unfold more as we go. And so this is what Deidre said about, like, bringing the firefly fairies into her kingdom. She says, "The creek can be the gate to the kingdoms." I could hear her smile in the words. "We could even fish for algae. Remember that?" The phrase fishing for algae seems to stir up some discomfort for Sky, which is really weird. And when Deidre presses her, she says, "You don't remember?" And it becomes pretty fucking clear that something bad happened to Sky in the creek. I don't know if she almost drowned. I don't know if there was like another person involved. I don't know what, but like she becomes like very uncomfortable and is like, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and she shuts the conversation down.
Aww.
And she was like, at first she was like, the creek, do you mean the valley? And then Deidre's like, no, I mean the creek, and whatever. Yeah, and it's from wherever it was in their old hometown where they used to like play these games. And so I'm wondering if there's like suppressed memories, because she also mentions like she doesn't know why she's uncomfortable, and I'm like, ooh, weird. So then the next chapter cuts back to the present day. where now Deidre's missing. So
Ooh, it's going to be one of those, I think.
I think it is. I don't know if it's going to be every other chapter or what, because
No, I doubt it'll be every other chapter, but...
Yeah, but it is going to cut back and forth, which this author so far has a very good command of it, because, like, chapter 1 was clearly, this happened. Or no, yeah, the prologue was, this is happening. Chapter 1 was, this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to come back to, this is happening, kind of thing. So we're back to the present day. The news is out about Deidre being missing.
Missing girl.
And, of course, there's people that come to the house and offer a million casseroles and stuff like that. We still don't know where we are, by the way. Like,
yeah.
She doesn't ever explain where they moved from or where they moved to. I don't know where... We're somewhere where there's a forest nearby. So even Alaska has forests. So it's like most of the United States has something that you could describe as like forest land. There's like, I mean, parts in the South that maybe I'd be like, that's a swamp, not a forest, but...
And then the desert area.
Yeah.
To get in the mountains again.
True. But yeah, so like, there's a lot of places she could be.
They're also saying the word casserole, so I'm imagining the Midwest.
That's what I was imagining. I was like, casserole, that's such a Midwestern thing.
Such a Midwest.
So I don't know where they're from, though. But anyways, so we're in the present day, the news has come out, people are coming by to show their sympathies, they're bringing casseroles, and there's this really awkward interaction with Skye and this one guy who I don't remember his name, I'll have to like look it up, because he seems important. He seems to be one of her friends, and I don't know if he friend-zoned her or if she friend-zoned him, but like there seems to be this awkward tension.
Oh, okay.
And like the two of them are just really awkward, and she just wants him to leave and stuff, but like also with the way that she's described her other friends, he sounds like the nicest one out of all of them, and so I'm like, I don't know who you're hanging out with, Skye. But yeah, so there's that really weird interaction with him, and it feels like there's a deeper story there as far as like why the two of them are so awkward with each other. And maybe we'll get to it. Maybe we won't. I think it would actually be very interesting if we never get to some of the secrets that are, like, being held, especially by Skye, because Skye is very adamant about holding on to her secrets. So then a little bit later, a social worker comes to interview the family to kind of get an idea of, like, who's Deidre, who the family is, why she might have run away if she ran away, or, like, is there anybody who would want to do harm to her, that kind of thing. And immediately shit starts hitting the fan. Like, immediately when the social worker shows up, because the parents start bickering with each other, and I think the mom's name is Sarah, which is upsetting, but she also spells it with an H, I think. But I still don't know what the dad's name is. But the two of them just start bickering, which, like, part of that is, like, they have a missing child. They're gonna be on edge. They haven't been sleeping. Like, they didn't sleep the whole night and whatever. This is the next day, so this is Halloween.
Yeah, and they're, judging by the child's past, they've probably been interacting with CPS or the social workers before.
Yeah. But they just start bickering, and, like, again, the mom goes on to, like, in a lot of ways just shit on Deidre and be like, she's really bad at making friends and whatever, but, like, will not elaborate. And I'm like, is it that she's bad at making friends, or is she, like, is there something, like a mental illness, a mental disability? Is it a developmental disability? Is it, or is it that, like, Deidre is violent? Like, I don't know. Like, 'cause, like, I think about, like, she keeps saying, like, she's really bad at making friends and she's having a hard time adjusting, but...
Yeah.
And then Skye, of course, is very unhelpful when she answers these questions.
Of course.
I
feel like this is Skye.
I feel like Skye is a very unhelpful and very, like, bitter person for being so young. I think she doesn't... Like, she said that she always liked being Deidre's Queen of Swords, but, like, I feel like there's also a part of her that's like, I am so fucking tired of protecting you. And it's really weird. But, yeah, so she, like, if she answers any of the social workers' questions, she's not helpful. But most of the time, she's not answering the questions. She's just staying quiet and being like, don't let anything slip. Like, that's her inner monologue is saying, like, don't let anything slip. And I'm like what? What could,
what are you trying, what is...
It's such an odd reaction to be like, I need to hold on to my secrets right now, because I'm like, your sister is missing. So, like, what are your priorities right now? Because, like...
Oh, I don't know.
Like, well, it's just odd because I'm like, do you really, like, despise your sister that much that your personal secrets are more important to you than maybe bringing her back home safe and alive? Like, would you rather her, like, find out that she died because you held on to information? I don't know. That's just really weird. But again... Sky is also young and maybe doesn't think all the way through stuff. I don't know. And so eventually Sky just like excuses herself from the conversation because she's like, I'm done with this. And she just goes into her room. And of course the social worker follows her. And again, Sky is like, don't slip up. Don't say anything. Don't, you know, she's trying to create this like stone wall of like impassivity. And then the social worker kind of deflects and starts asking her about gardening because apparently Sky has this very impressive array of plants in her room, like even orchids and things like that. And the social worker tries to like tell her a story about how she tried to care for an orchid once, but it died within like a week or something like that. And Sky said something about how she's like, you just have to leave them alone. And I'm like, is that a metaphor for you, Sky? Do you need to be left alone? Or does Deidre need to be left alone? I like that I get to sit with these metaphors and think about them for a bit. Like, she's not over-explaining them.
She just goes, fuck off. It was essentially just Sky going, fuck off.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, Sky's like, I'm not going to say anything to you that, you know, could maybe incriminate me or whatever. I don't know. It's really weird. And she's like, fuck off. Leave the stupid orchids alone and they'll thrive. All this kind of stuff. But then in the middle of that conversation, she also says to the social worker, she was like, Deidre just refuses to grow up. And so that's where I'm like, I don't know if it's like a mental illness with Deidre or if it's something like that. Or if it is just, like, her being prone to fantasy. Or maybe there is magic, and Deidre's the only one that knows about it. Like, there's so many possibilities here where I'm like, I don't know what it could be. But then also, all the while that this conversation is happening, Sky is looking out her bedroom window, which overlooks, like, the front garden. And her mom is, like, out there while she's having this conversation with the social worker. And her mom is, like, just kind of aimlessly poking at the garden with a shovel. And I'm wondering if that is a very clever foreshadowing of either Deidre being, like, closer than anybody thinks. Like, maybe she never left kind of thing. Or, on a more morbid note, maybe she's dead. Because, like, just because there's something about, like, you know how, like, you bury dead things to help fertilize a garden kind of thing.
Oh.
So, like, I don't know. It's just, it was very odd because, like, the author kept pointing to the fact that her mom was out there with the shovel and was poking at shit. Yeah. And so I'm like, does the mom know? Did the mom kill her?
Or it was related to, like, oh, even the mom is into gardening and does that to de-stress or something.
Well, yeah, they did talk about that. Like, Sky and the social worker, Sky said, like, yeah, that's the only thing that my mom and I have in common.
Yeah. I was hopeful for a second. I was like, maybe this is going to be a story of the older sister has to remember that she's magical in some way, or they had this weird, like, experience with their younger one, and the younger one is, like, taken or dead, and they have to, like... If this is a hero story, crossing the threshold is soon.
Yeah, I would assume so. I'm so fascinated by it because I can't tell where it's going. Because I know literally nothing about it. Because I literally decided to read it because the cover looked interesting and because of that one person on whatever page it was that was like, please, I want to know what this book is so I can read it again because it was really interesting and, like, the few things that they talked about. And I'm like... It sounds interesting, but I don't know where it's going. And especially because, like, like, it could go anywhere with the fact that I'm like, because I don't know for a fact if it's fantasy or not, so I don't know if there's magic involved. I don't know if it's one of those where, like, you think there might be magic involved.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. Like, I am curious because, and I also think I'm more inclined to believe that it is a true crime type of story where,
Yeah.
I'm inclined to believe that Deidre was kidnapped and that the monsters that we're going to find out, it's going to be the Scooby-Doo thing of,
Yeah,
it was a
monsters
person.
are the people near you.
Yeah. That's what I'm really nervous that that's what that's going to be because that's going to be really heavy if I was looking for something light and fluffy. But I think it has so many possibilities to go somewhere kind of cool if it does go into a magical route.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, no matter what, it's going to be heavy because if she ran away, what did she run from? And that sounds very dark and heavy and horrible. If she's kidnapped or murdered or other kind of, like, if a crime has occurred, that is horrifying.
Yeah.
And if it is a magical, like, realm, it sounds scary as shit. Like, it is horrifying whatever is happening to her. Like, the fact that she is without boots, without a coat,
And just gone.
and is so prone to fantasy.
Like Bridge to Terabithia type stuff.
Yeah, or like did you ever watch the Anastasia movie when you were younger?
I might have, but
So there's this time when, like, she's seeing one thing, but, like, something very different is happening to her, like, because she's, like, sleepwalking, quote unquote, in the movie, where, like, she's, like, on this ship in a storm or whatever, and she goes up onto the deck, and, like, she's looking down into, like, a lake or whatever in her mind, and, like, it's, like, her family, and they're swimming and whatever, and they're like, come on, jump in, and she, like, does the motions to jump in, but she's on a ship and, like, will, like, fall into an actual, like, ocean and die kind of thing.
Oh.
I wonder if it's going to be something like that. So not even, like, Bridge to Terabithia, because, like, in that they were definitely playing pretend and stuff, and then it was, like, a rope swing and it was an accident. I'm wondering if it's going to be a thing, like, where, like, she thinks she is doing one thing, like, she's on a quest or she's, like, doing something like that, and it is, like, acting it out in the real world, but isn't, like, playing pretend. Like, she is, like, seeing a completely different world kind of thing. And then something tragic does happen, but not like the Bridge to Terabithia. I mean, maybe a little bit to that, but, like where she thinks one thing is happening, but something else is happening.
Okay.
That would also be very scary. It'd be a very interesting story, but it'd be very scary. But I think I read one of, like, the quotes about this book is that it's, like, it was talking about how, like, people, like, hold on to their secrets and stuff like that, and, like, but then secrets spill out and whatever, which I'm like, that's always what happens with, like, a true crime case. But it's just, I'm also just fascinated by the fact that people are more willing to hold on to their secrets than they are on, like, protecting the people they care about.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at. I'm only I just finished chapter 2.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to read further before we recorded, but I was like, it's been, like, a week since I read the last chapter, so I should probably get on it. But yeah, I'm glad that we're recording now.
Lots of fun speculation.
Yeah, I think, like, the next few chapters hopefully are a little bit more enlightening about what's gonna, like, what kind of story this is gonna be. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be a mystery the whole goddamn time.
Yeah, that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
And we just get to speculate more.
Yeah. I like that I don't know what the fuck is going on. I mean, I got the general gist, like, girl's missing. Got it.
Girl missing. She's weird.
She's weird, and
Sister doesn't want to talk about it.
her family's fucking weird.
Yeah, family secrets.
I'm very, very intrigued by it. So, while it's not what I wanted as far as it's not light and fluffy, it is exactly what I wanted as far as, like, the writing style is great. There's intrigue. I'm fascinated. I can't wait to read more. So, yeah.
So I think I learned this artist, I guess I can say artist, this author likes to do imagery through, but, like, they're not describing a scene, they're describing, like, a feeling through imagery.
Yeah. I really like that they describe empty tree branches as leafless claws. That just sounds spooky. I learned that you play a lot of really lame sounding games that have really lame names. That's basically just character.
Character of the game, yes.
That's so dumb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't do a good job explaining.
Well, guys, that's the end of our podcast, and it's time to promote our socials.
Follow us on Instagram at
A Pot of Sass.
shoot us an email at
apotofsass@gmail.com.
check out our Patreon at
patreon.com/apposass, APOSAS, which is what this podcast abbreviates to. So, apposass.
Apple Sass.
Not apple sass.
Applesauce.
Apposass.
With cinnamon.
Ooh, hey nerds, quick update right here. Our Patreon is actually patreon.com/apotofsassandSarcasm. I think I just really wanted it to be abbreviated to Apposass and then didn't actually make that happen. So my bad. It's patreon.com/apotofsassandSarcasm. Oops. Oh my god. And I think those are all the socials that we have because I don't know what else to do for socials.
Yeah.
You can listen to us on Spotify, I think, and Amazon Music. And I have to set up the rest of them. But I want it to be so that you can listen to us wherever you find podcasts.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we hope you keep listening, and we hope you keep it sassy.
Later.